Welcome to episode 1 of Glossy Girl Gossip, the podcast where we explore how media shapes the way women and teenage girls see themselves through a digital lens. In today's episode, we focus on the question that affects women and young girls every single day. How do TikTok and Instagram use algorithms, content loops, and filters to perpetuate ideals of beauty and body standards among Generation Z and Alpha audiences? To answer that question, we'll explore examples from TikTok and Instagram, as well as incorporate the cultivation theory, parasocial relationships, social comparison theory, internet addictions, and more. Imagine waking up and the first thing you open up is TikTok or Instagram. The first video that you see that pops up is of beauty or a beauty influencer that is giving tips on how to do a skincare routine. Then the next video that you scroll past features a fitness instructor promoting how to get that perfect body. You then begin to see that you are picking up a pattern of doom scrolling, passing makeup tutorials, fashion hauls, that perfect body, outfits of the day, and most popular, the glow up trend. Before you've even gotten out of bed to brush your teeth or wash your face, you've already exposed yourself to a significant amount of content that basically has curated an algorithm to advertise what beauty and body goals are in today's society. For women and young girls, this is normal. This is normal for social media. But in reality, it's actually pretty harmful. So let's talk about how the cultivation theory comes into play. Cultivation theory is long-term exposure to media, causing it to shape how people perceive reality, and that's according to George Gerbner. In other words, the more we consume something in the media, the more likely we are to believe it represents reality or the real world. When you spend hours at a time just scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, you're practically exposing yourself to something called content loops and binge scrolling. A lot of people do this who suffer from unknown internet addictions, and that's according to Lynn in a 2019 article. Unfortunately, a lot of social media users are actually internet dependent, meaning that the more that they scroll on these apps, you create and curate your own algorithms and your own content loops that generate what content you want to see. So let's take a deeper dive into algorithms and content loop control. Content loops are a huge factor in how TikTok and Instagram use algorithms, content loops, and filters to perpetuate these ideals of beauty and body standards amongst Generation Z and Alpha audiences. So, because TikTok and Instagram are designed to keep users engaged, they practically use people who have a large following who are labeled as influencers to promote beauty products and body standards. This is because socially attractive individuals are easier to follow and engage with, according to Williams in the 2024 article, page 1 through 41. To these social media developers, beauty sells, so why not use these people to promote a product or promote an agenda? So, when you like one video of beauty or body content, it creates an algorithm of similar videos the more you scroll through their apps. So, this creates a cycle of curated beauty and body standards that are hard to escape because it's literally at your fingertips the moment you wake up. Content loops is content created by social media companies and user-generated consumption patterns. So they're basically watching your dopamine triggers. They're watching your shares, your likes, how much you repost something, and how much you even save videos to your personal profile. This then leads to social comparison theory, affecting the psychological aspects and mental health and behavioral components in some female consumers. According to Leon Festinger in 1954, the social comparison theory is simply how we compare ourselves to other people to basically understand who we are as people. You have the upward comparison theory, which is comparing yourself to someone who is basically doing better than you to motivate you to do better. or you can compare yourself to the downward comparison theory, which would basically be comparing yourself to someone who is doing worse than you. And lastly, we have the lateral comparison, which is basically comparing yourself to people who are similar to you and are connected to similar things. And it basically helps you figure out who you are. Is it normal? Is it not normal? Am I cool? Am I not cool? Do I meet those body standards or beauty standards that they are also showing on social media? You are comparing yourself to these individuals. Now, I know some of you are wondering, how do we end up on the topic of mental health, self-esteem, and the social comparison theory? So, let's talk about it. Women and young girls begin to compare themselves to beauty and body standards that are basically unrealistic. And research has shown that these comparisons can contribute to low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, and mood swings. We have trends like the glass skin effect, the slim waist, the Brazilian butt lift, the perfect hair, the perfect body, and more. These are typically seen on the For You page, also known as FYP, on TikTok, or on Instagram, it's called the Explore page. So, when we combine these things, such as the cultivation theory, the social comparison theory, content loops, and algorithm control, we begin to shape and alter our own minds and relationships with social media itself, creating a positive relationship or a negative relationship. This affects the psychological effect and behavioral effect of individuals who are using social media apps such as Instagram and TikTok. But because both Gen Zers and Generation Alpha grew up with social media, it makes it harder for them to escape these psychological effects and theories. Researchers have determined that Generation Z actually lacks self-confidence out of any other generation. So, how can we fix this lack of confidence? Well, a lot of people begin to form these type of parasocial relationships with social media influencers who curate these beauty and body standard ideals that are on social media apps. Parasocial relationships are one-sided relationships between the consumer and the influencer. The thing is, the influencer isn't aware of this relationship that the consumer has created between the two. This helps fuel that confident boost that Gen Zers are missing. So, in other words, if it works for her, then maybe I should do it too. But there's a catch to things like this. Women and teenage girls then become overly obsessed and overly focused on likes, comments, and follows. This can then lead to the inadequacy, the low self-esteem, anxiety, and unhealthy body images. So, how can we create healthier relationships with social media? Set limits on how much you consume social media content. And another way to explore healthier media habits is to identify your triggers and patterns. What are your usage tracking methods? Set time limits, schedule offline periods, and find ways to reduce the amount of social media apps that you have on your devices. So, this is only the beginning of healthy media usage and consumption. According to Gender, Race, and Media, by Bill Usman and Lori Usman, you are then practicing what is called media literacy, which is using critical thinking to understand and interpret media messages that have been curated. And this is the beginning of healthy media usage and consumptions. In today's episode, we have explored how TikTok and Instagram uses algorithms, content loops, and filters to perpetuate ideas of beauty and body standards among Generation Z and Alpha audiences. We talked about cultivation theory, content loops, mental health and self-esteem, parasocial relationships, and how to manage healthy relationships with social media consumptions. So, thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Glossy Girl Gossip. I'm your host, Courtney, and I'll see you on the next episode.